Hey, you guys, welcome to Alex and Andy Live. You are looking now at a beautiful view of Shanghai, China. That is Shanghai's Lujiazui. That is a famous view, famous skyline of the city that you will have seen whether you've been here or not. There we go. I am Andy, and
I'm Alex.
good to see you guys again. We had a bit of an evening off last night. Sorry about that. It was not planned, but we had another online concert to play. So I hope you guys didn't miss us too much. But we're back with all the latest news about Shanghai's current lockdown. It's the 22nd of April, so we're on day 22 of the citywide lockdown. Alex, how have you been going?
Pretty well. Let's see, watching some basketball. My favorite team, the Memphis Grizzlies, got a huge win this morning, so that was fun.
Oh, nice.
They were losing by a lot, and they came back and won. Beyond that, so I don't know if the information that I had been hearing in our neighborhood was true or whether it was just a false. I don't know what happened, but we're allowed to go downstairs now. So I guess we have moved into the islands. Yeah. I was able to go downstairs actually last night after, we didn't do a stream last night. That's right. But after the concert, I went downstairs. There were a lot of people down there. Of course, everyone masked up, but I think it was our first day after 3 weeks of complete lockdown. So there were a lot of people out there walking their dogs, taking a walk, doing some exercise, things like that. Everyone wearing a mask. We made sure to do so as well, and still to keep distance away because we want to be able to preserve that status.
Right.
But it was good. I was able to go and pick up a package at the gate of the compound. I was able to throw out my own garbage, stuff like that. So yeah, fed a couple of stray dogs and cats in our compound, who I'm sure were happy to see us all again. So yeah.
Yeah, well, they must be. Like we said before, a lot of the stray cats and dogs in Shanghai, and there's a lot of them, really do rely on the kindness of people to feed them. So how were they when you saw them? I'm really curious myself.
I don't know. I saw this one little dog, and I'm more of a cat guy than a dog guy, but I like dogs too. And this little dog guy, I thought for sure was somebody, because in Shanghai we have a lot more stray cats than we do stray dogs.
Yeah.
And this little dog came up, and he was just kind of chilling. And and so I ended up giving him some of the food from the night before that I hadn't finished. We had been making some beef, and so I gave him some. He was happy to see me anyway. So.
Oh, nice. Oh, I'm really, really 羡慕你. What's the word in English? 我羡慕你. I'm jealous. I'm jealous of you because we are still in red here. Now I'll bring up a bigger screen here so you guys can see my screen. If you can.
A little blurry there. No. Oh, there it is. There it is.
Anyway, the red area above here is my area. So there's a area in the middle that's kind of been released to a lower level, but our whole area is completely red because of new cases in our compound. So it was before, Alex, you were looking at being locked down for longer than me, but it looks like our tables have turned and I'm not out for a little while, I guess. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how it's working, but all I know is that we are now allowed to go downstairs, which would then mean, if I assume that we're adhering to the policy, that we have entered the yellow or the orange zone or whatever, that middle thing, which would mean there hasn't been a case in at least 7 days. And I hope that's true, because we were definitely downstairs walking around, again, keeping our distance, but definitely around people for the first time in a while yesterday evening. So.
Well, there's that color-coded thing again that we put together. Shanghai is currently in these 3 stages. Your Xiaoqiu, your area, will be under one of these. And Alex is just saying he thinks he's probably in the middle stage now, the orange stage, which means he can go downstairs. So that's awesome. I'm still in the red there. And precautionary, no cases in 14 plus days. That's, it's looking like a long way away from me. But yeah, I'll just quickly check some messages, some comments. Travel with Jean in China says, cases are falling. Things are getting better fast. On that note, I will quickly read out the numbers for today. We had 1,931 new symptomatic cases and 15,698 asymptomatic cases. So as Jean is saying there, the numbers have come down, and I'll quickly head across to our website when my computer catches up. There we go. to see the graph there, which we normally like to look at. It does look promising, Alex.
Yep, we're heading down. Obviously, back in our, I would say during about our second week of lockdown, the second week of April, as our lockdown here where we are started on the 1st. We saw kind of a continued uptick in cases. One day it went down, but then went right back up. And it looks like now at this point, the numbers are decreasing at a fairly steady pace, if not massive. Still, we're making positive progress. Obviously, if you look at the peak numbers, if you add symptomatic and asymptomatic, we were up well over 25,000. But today it's around 17, which is fewer than yesterday, which is fewer than the previous day, and then fewer. So we've had fewer cases several days in a row now. So that's a good sign. I hope that continues.
Yeah, which you can see here. If I were to put a little bit of a damper on it, the numbers for asymptomatic cases anyway are very, very slightly lower than yesterday. So it's definitely not, we see here, it's not that much of a steady fall, but it is still aiming in the right direction. And also symptomatic cases are a little lower than the day before. So yeah, we are heading into good territory. Rebecca says, good news. Stephen Riley says, it sounds like Alex, some of the most simple things were so enjoyable, taking down the trash and everything. What do you say, Alex?
Yeah, absolutely. It was funny. We were downstairs just taking a stroll after we had thrown out the trash. Obviously, we have cats. We don't need to walk them, but we were down there just having a stroll. And I live in a large compound with about 30 buildings, and all of them are, at least between 24 and 30 stories tall. But so there are a lot of people living here, but I hadn't seen. I've lived in this building, in this apartment for 3 years at least. I think we moved here 3 years ago, and I'd never seen that many people ever. I've never seen that many people walking around. So
everyone's
like everybody was really enjoying sort of the simple pleasures of being able to breathe some fresh air and walk around a little bit. Once you can't do that for a few weeks, it really sort of becomes a yearning desire to do that.
For sure, definitely. Some more comments quickly. Kevin James Ing says, good interview with the new Atlas. I appeared on Brian Berletic's YouTube channel today. So yeah, if you want to head along there, it's the new Atlas. Somebody asked, hi guys, Michael Tan, he says, hi guys from Melbourne, Australia. Our ABC is reporting riots in Shanghai. Is it true? Riots, I would say no. Riots is a bit of a, strong word. There have been some small protests, obviously, ever since the beginning. So this is nothing new. But of course, as we've discussed before, Western media is more pivoted towards reporting on problems. That is kind of the Western media model, shining a light on things going wrong in society. So you will see more of that negative news over there. Obviously, it's not, someone else says, yes, a few riots. It's obviously not citywide. The city is not falling apart. Alex, what do you have to say about that?
I don't know if riot is quite the correct word. When I think of riot, right, I'm thinking of things other than what I've seen in a few snippets of videos here and there over the last few weeks. There have been some people who are unhappy, particularly during the time a couple of weeks ago when the supply of food and the logistics in terms of getting it out to everybody was not quite where it needed to be. And so a lot of people were getting real upset about that. There have been some people which is now not legal, but people who were refused entry into their compound after being released from quarantine, causing a bit of a stink about that, rightfully so. I would be upset as well. So. Although, fighting and breaking things is not the way to go about it. But at the same time, but are there riots all around Shanghai? No, absolutely not. It's pretty quiet, obviously, eerily so. But no, I would say that is a pretty serious exaggeration of the situation.
Right. Michael Tan has already replied and said, thanks for clearing that up. Or it's very good. That's what we're here for, So we're keen to do, if you have any questions, to answer them, especially in regards to if you're overseas and you're just watching Western media. It's really important. But like Alex said, there have definitely been problems here, which are some of them still being ironed out. Yesterday, our community here was a bit peed off, to put it lightly, because obviously we had new cases to do with Tuangou, with the group buying. So our group buying was temporarily stopped, and people were a bit peeved off. So everyone was venting in the WeChat group. It is common. People in China are just human like everybody else. People get annoyed. People get angry, people yell out, people, want to do all sorts of things. They're just human. So I think it's really important to keep in mind that Chinese people are just the same as everyone else. Everyone is peed off, goes through ups and downs through this lockdown. So yeah, it's just normal. But thank you so much for the questions. I'm going to bring in our colleague Yang Jian, if he's still there. Oh no, he's gone. Yang Jian, if you, there he is. Sorry,
back. All right,
he's there.
Hi.
He's going to give us hi. He's going to give us some updates because he is our Shanghai daily reporter who takes part in all of the Fabu Hui, the media event, press conference every morning. So Yang Jian, thank you so much for coming on again. Shanghai released, I think this is some of the biggest news today. Shanghai released 9 new guidelines for going forward and aiming for a COVID zero, but there was some confusion, including from myself, about what that policy said in regards to home quarantine. Can you clear some of that up for us, some of the confusion?
Yeah, sure. The city government just announced that my actions as part of its final decisive campaign against the COVID-19, and the campaign was launched since last Friday. And the goal is to achieve the zero community transmission soon. And these actions include the community management and control, the continued PCR and the antigen screen, and the epidemiological investigation, and the accelerated transfer and the quarantine, and other measures such as the wider application of TCM and the citywide disinfection. And in one of the actions which you just mentioned, that might cause confusion is about the city government said it will to expand the capacity of quarantine sites. And in part of it, it says that if condition allows, and after the approval from the authority, a transitional home quarantine under strict management can be conducted. And but I like to say that it is not actually for the positive cases, because in the previous action, the city government stated clearly that all infections, close contacts, and other risky groups must be transferred in time. So, and it says every new case must be put under central quarantine on the same day they tested positive. So, according to the nation's CDC, there are 4 groups of people who are eligible for the home quarantine, and positive cases are not included in the groups. And according to the nation's newly released COVID-19 diagnosis and treatment protocol, the first group is the close contacts and the secondary contacts. And the second is those returning from overseas. And the third is those discharged from designated and makeshift hospitals. And all the 3 groups must be tested negative, of course. And only the number 4, it says that people who cannot receive central quarantine after analysis from professional staff, and they can undergo home quarantine. So in most conditions, a positive case won't be allowed for a home quarantine, and it is mainly for the close contacts and the overseas returnees who test negative. Andy.
All right. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so that means that close contacts are eligible for quarantine at home, but positive cases are not. Got it. So I wanted to ask. So we noted that in the guidelines, they're one of the 9 sort of new guidelines and new goals. One of them was a push for greater efficiency in the central quarantine centers, just to make sure that the people who are negative can leave ASAP to open up new spaces, obviously, and there's no need to continue to hold negative testing people there. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. I think the core idea of this action is both the reception of positive cases and the discharge of recovered patients must be further accelerated. Like the city's leading coronavirus expert, Zhang Wenhong, always says that we must run ahead of the Omicron. And to achieve that target, the action said daily PCR testing will be conducted for every patient in the makeshift and the designated hospitals. And a list of patients who tested negative twice will be sent to their communities immediately. so that the community will arrange the transport and they can be sent back home in time. And under such mechanism, an increasing number of patients have been discharged from local COVID-19 hospitals. And yesterday, there were a record number of about 28,000 patients discharged upon recovery, and far exceeding the number of the city's daily new coronavirus infections. Alex.
That's good. Yeah, again, it's good to have that number. The net outflow is more than the influx of patients, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, thanks for clearing that up. Yang Jian, do you have any more important news you want to share from today's press conference?
Today the vice mayor of Shanghai just announced that most of the city's key companies have restarted productions as the pandemic in the city has been gradually relieved. I think you guys just mentioned that. And the number of Shanghai's new cases has declined for 5 consecutive days. And among them, only 215, only 1.4% of the total infections were detected during the PCR screening. And all the rest has been put under central quarantine as close contacts before they tested positive. But the number of cities' death cases and those with severe symptoms is still rising, and the death toll has increased to 36 after 11 new death cases on Thursday, and over 118 are in severe or critical conditions. And most of them, again, are seniors with severe underlying diseases, which the officials said was the direct cause of their death, rather than the coronavirus. And the city's health commission also announced today to commit better medical resources, such as more experts and daily online consultation among both city level and the national experts will be held every day on each case, mainly for their underlying diseases. And this effort is expected to curb the growing rate of the city's death and the severe symptoms among the COVID-19 infections. Andy.
Awesome. Yang Jian, thank you so much for filling us in again, and we'll see you again, hopefully same time tomorrow. Cheers.
See you.
Thank you. See you.
Okay, so that is interesting because obviously a lot of the guidance that comes out from the government can be quite hard to decipher. So this morning we actually received those 9 new guidelines and read the home quarantine part as meaning that people may be able to ask for home quarantine, which doesn't turn out to have been the case. So as Yang Jian said, people who are returning from overseas who have tested negative, and also close contacts who have tested negative may be allowed to apply for home quarantine. But it doesn't seem like it's going to apply to a much wider group. Alex, what did you take from that?
Yep, that's I had the same questions upon first reading it earlier in the day, and that clears that up. Obviously, if that's what so they're just going to proceed with central quarantine for those testing positive. When they say, and I think I'm interpreting this correctly, when they say people returning from overseas, I think you still need to do a hotel quarantine when you return from overseas. But then I think that after, but like the final part of the quarantine is meant to be an at-home quarantine. Right. I think the idea is that they won't send you to a central quarantine facility for that, and it would make sense because you would be negative, and it doesn't make sense to send people testing negative to the central quarantine facilities. As number one, it's pointless, and number two, they want to save that space for positive testing people, and so that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does make sense. But yeah, we will strive to decipher, I think is a fair word, a lot of these regulations for you on shine.cn. And I'll bring that up now. There is a story there about the 9 new guidelines that were released today. The title, obviously, there is New Push from Friday Aims for Zero COVID Infection. So you can head along to the Shine website, shine.cn, if you want to check out those 9 points yourself. And yeah, any other news that is released, we'll be putting it up there every day, all in English. So yeah, do head along to shine.cn to see
or check out our WeChat account.
Alex, I've got some good news.
Okay.
Yep.
Can't quite hear you at the moment.
Exactly.
All right, say that again.
WeChat official account. If you're watching on the WeChat official account now,
I've got a bit of a delay.
Leave some comments.
I'm not sure if it's on your end or my end, but
we'll have a look. And try and share. Okay, maybe I'm back. Can you hear me, Alex?
And now, yes, I missed a bunch of what you said there. Maybe if you, I don't know if it's me slow or if it's you slow. I don't know if our viewers caught that or not. But anyway, go ahead as you were saying.
I can't even remember what I was saying now. Head along to the Shine website, maybe.
Yes, and I mentioned the WeChat official account as another convenient way to get the news from Shanghai Daily, and then you were going to tell us about some good news about one of our friends who was in quarantine, I believe.
Yes, we have a colleague, Amy, who was in quarantine. We have been checking up with her recently, not last night because we had the concert. But the good news is she has actually been released. Now, I found out today that she has quite a unique, or it's actually not that unique situation in that she was one of the ones who was allowed to stay at home or required to stay at home when she tested positive because there weren't enough spaces. So by the time she went into quarantine, she was actually already negative. So what she was doing was going into quarantine to return the 2 negative tests and officially be released from quarantine and get a green code. So it sounds really confusing, but we'll bring her in now and see. Amy, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. I am.
Awesome. So we can see you're home now. It's really good news. How do you feel to be at home?
Yeah, finally I'm back. East to West, home is the best, definitely.
Definitely. So your situation is really interesting, and I know that some of our viewers are in a similar position. I know personally a few people that were in this position. So to where you weren't able to go to central quarantine when you first tested positive because the numbers were going up really quickly and there weren't enough spots in the quarantine facilities. And then you had to go several days later. Can you kind of talk a little bit about what happened there and sort of the situation?
Yes, actually, I was confirmed positive on April. However, I was sent to the central quarantine this Monday, which is 18 April. So 10 days later, I was sent to the central quarantine. And when I arrived the central quarantine, I was taken the nucleic acid test in the afternoon. And the report out after, which was Tuesday afternoon, and the result is negative. And I was after that I was taking the second test, and the report came out the day after, which is approximately 10 o'clock in the evening of Wednesday. So the stuff there say if you take 2 negative tests, you're allowed to leave. However, because it's quite late at night, so our list was sent to the CDC the day after, which was Wednesday around 12 o'clock, about noon. And the day after that, Friday, this morning, a coach was sent to pick us up. So around 11 o'clock, and I was back home around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's actually my story.
All right.
Oh, wow. Really interesting. You said earlier also that your health code was red. Do you have any idea, and I know a lot of our viewers have the same question, how long it would take your code to turn green again?
Actually, nobody tell me the exact or the answer because everybody probably have a different story. Because my neighbor with me, her code already turned to green when she was central quarantine and got the report that she was definitely negative. Her code already turned green. However, when I'm back after 6 hours, it's around 8 o'clock in the evening, my code is still red. So actually, I cannot tell you the
Huh.
depth because I don't.
Well, let's hope that gets turned back green soon. I know that right now, I mean, I think you're still under home quarantine after being released. So right now, it's not the most important thing. But when we do get out of here, I assume you want it to be green. You don't want to be walking around with a red code.
Oh,
So go ahead.
Green or red.
Yeah. So I just want to ask, like, having been in the central quarantine facility and now getting out, so is this an experience you think that you'll remember forever, or one you just like to forget about?
I think I cannot forget it soon, but actually it's just a part of your memory. Probably you will record something after. I just would like to quote a sentence from a very popular movie, B for Busy. Your life never been to central quarantine is incomplete. I can only say my life is quite complete now.
Right.
Nobody wants to be there.
No. If I can avoid it, I'll take incomplete then, I guess. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully we can all avoid it. But I'm glad that you're out. It's really good to see that you're back home again, and you're doing great. So that's cool.
Thank you. I just want to
Yeah, thank you so much, Amy. Good luck with everything.
She was going to say something.
Okay.
You good? All right.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Amy, so much. We'll see you again soon.
Bye.
Sorry about that. The connection is really bad. I don't know. Is it cutting out for you there, Alex?
I don't know. So sometimes you will slow down, and sometimes I don't know if it's me that's slow or you that's slow, or I'm not sure what's happening. But we know that everyone, or almost everyone, is at home using the internet connection in our buildings, which does tend to slow it down when especially during right now, sort of the peak time to be on the internet, whether you're watching TV or whatever, or watching us or whatever you're doing. So yeah, that's okay. We'll get through it.
Well, yeah, we'll get through it. Sorry, you guys, if you're watching and the connection's a bit bad, just stick with us. We will be here once the connection sorts itself out. But we have a comment from Kevin James Ng, who says, "Good to see Amy out." It is really good. She is one of our colleagues, obviously. So it's always, hopefully we can see more and more people out. And I do have a number here, which is a record for Shanghai. Yesterday, 26,256 people were released from central quarantine. So Amy was one of them. So good job. Hopefully we'll see that number continuing to head downwards. But for now, let's head for a little break. We'll try and figure out this internet problem, and we'll be right back after this performance.
Leon, and he is 5 years old. Today we are going to sing Monsters. I see your monsters, I see your pain. Tell me your problems, I'll chase them away. I'll be your lighthouse, I'll make it okay. When I see your monsters, I'll stand there so brave and chase them all away. In the dark, we stand apart, we never see that the things we need are staring right at us. You just wanna hide, never show your smile. Stand alone when you need someone, it's the hardest thing of all that you see are the bad memories. Take your time and you'll find me. I see your monsters, I see your pain. Tell me your problems, I'll chase them away. I'll be your lighthouse, I'll make it okay. When I see your monsters, I'll stand there so brave and chase them all away.
Wow, really good. Nice performance there from two of our colleagues. Right now, I'm going to show you guys a lovely view of Shanghai. This is a live view, thanks to our friends over at Kan Xinwen, which is K News. Thanks for supplying us with that view, you guys. It's really nice. It really makes us want to get out there. And it looks like it might be quicker for you than me, Alex.
Seems possible. Like I was saying before, we have had cases in my compound. Shanghai has got obviously a lot of people, nearly 26 million people living here, and the majority of us live in apartment buildings. Obviously, that's the way that the city is set up. There are some villas in different parts of the city, mostly on the outskirts. But for those of us that live in central locations in the city, we live in apartment buildings, many of them quite tall, and many of the communities are quite large. My community has got over 2,000, I think almost 3,000 residents. And, given that, and Andy, your community is much smaller. That's lucky for you in the sense that it's less likely that there'll be a confirmed case in your compound, whereas in the bigger ones, and some of them are even much bigger than 3,000. Some of them are huge. So it makes it more likely that there will be a confirmed case somewhere in your compound. But it's looking like there hasn't been one in mine for a few days, because just as of last night, we are now allowed to go downstairs and at least walk around outside. I saw a lot of people walking their dogs, and some people just sort of getting a little bit of exercise, jogging around the neighborhood. And so that's good.
Yeah, it's the simple things that we're all looking forward to doing, that you can do. But soon, you'll be walking out of your compound, I'm sure of it. Just some breaking news that has come in, not to do with the situation here in Shanghai. Well, actually, it could be slightly to do with it. But the Asian Games that is scheduled to come up in Hangzhou later this year, I think September, is looking likely to be postponed. Alex, you're a sports guy. What does this mean?
Well, it just seems it was meant to be in September, so obviously they're taking proactive measures. Hangzhou is another city. It's close to Shanghai. It's in Zhejiang province, which is just to our south. It's not far from here at all. And so maybe they're just doing that to cut off any sort of problems. It's a big deal. Obviously, it's not the Olympic Games, but it's almost in many senses the next best thing, the next biggest thing. Obviously, we had the Olympics here in Beijing earlier this year, but so it seems to be a sort of a preventative measure they're taking. They don't want things to get out of hand. Obviously, we have a lot of athletes coming from all over the continent to come to this event, and so it seems like they're sort of playing it safe, which I think is a good idea. I was planning on making a trip down there to do some reporting on it. Hopefully, I'll still be able to do that whenever they do run it. I am a little bit optimistic. Hopefully, they postpone it. That means that there won't be a bubble. There may still be a bubble. What we mean is the same way in the Olympic Village or for a lot of other sporting events that have taken place during the pandemic. What it is they just have a sealed bubble where nobody goes in or out. So the athletes, the media members just stay inside this particular location for the for the duration of the event. Now, I don't want to do that because I love the city of Hangzhou and I want to go out and visit some of my favorite places to go in the city. But we'll see if it takes place in a bubble or not whenever they do postpone it, or whenever they do actually hold the event. So we'll see.
Yeah, let's see. Cross our fingers for that. I think it'll be great to see the world coming together during these times, obviously. But if the event needs to be postponed, I think it's probably for the best. Also, no news yet, but there is a big event that's been continually postponed here in Shanghai called the World Skills Games, which is also meant to be coming up this year, having been pushed back. I am guessing that too will probably be postponed, although there has been no announcement yet, so we'll wait and see. We're going to play a quick video for you guys that has been filed from Shanghai's Lingang Makeshift Hospital, where a doctor has set up a painting workshop for some of the children who are currently under quarantine there. And apparently their works have been a bit of a source of inspiration for everyone, including patients and medics and volunteers. This video has been filed by Xinhua News Agency. So let's check that out and we'll be come back and have a chat.
他们这边的小朋友同颜色的小朋友比较少，然后我们能做的就是调动他们，活跃他们的气氛。好，然后我们就会鼓励他。这个是我自己画的，然后我的名字里有个金，所以我画了一个大白金。这个是画的是希望患者们自己跟我们一起加油，战胜这个新冠。后面也是一个，这是个加油鸭。 从开始建仓仓我就进来了。我们每天医生的工作就是早上先查房，然后根据病人的症状来给他适当的做一些诊疗工作。好像经过这2天，包括病人和包括我们医生这样子之间的互动和之间的这个互相帮助也互相理解，现在的方舱感觉更像一个大家庭和大社会。
Well, really good stuff, obviously. It kind of reminds me of the guest we had on, David, the other day, who had a really positive attitude. I see those volunteers also have a really positive attitude, Alex.
Yeah, the one thing I would say my favorite part about that video is obviously this doctor is taking care of kids, and it's a tough situation for kids. It's something that none of us have really ever been through before, much less kids. So I did like how she drew the whale on her sort of what do you call it, the protective gear, the protective suit she's wearing, because we call them the name that they've sort of been given is called Dabai, which means big white in Shanghai here. The volunteers and the workers wearing the white suits head to toe. And it's kind of taken on a bit of a negative connotation just because people are frustrated with the whole situation, and just having to be inside is a frustrating thing for people, and that's understandable. And also, but most of these people are really helpful volunteers, doctors, and everybody else. But it's kind of an intimidating thing to see the people in the big white suit walking around. It almost looks, it's a bit unnerving. It can be at times. And so I thought it was cool that she drew some pictures and some doodles and some drawings on it to sort of, I think that would make the kids, it makes me feel more comfortable. So I'm sure it would make a bunch of young children feel a lot better and more sort of, a little bit warm, like less cold and sanitized and robotic, and more like, oh, this is an individual person who's here to help me, and it's okay. So I think I like that part.
Yeah, no, it's nice. It's true what you say about the gear they need to wear. It does cover up most of their body and everything, so it can be hard to differentiate the volunteers and the doctors from each other. But I do want to add that doctor, the young nurse, I think a young doctor there, you could see her eyes, and you know what they say, the eyes are the window to the soul. So I think she said she's been in that hospital since the beginning. She's probably learning to express more emotion and sympathy and empathy with her eyes. So yeah, it's really cool that there's people like that in these makeshift hospitals. So yeah, all power to those guys, and hopefully everyone can be out of there really soon, including those volunteers. It's a tough time. Hey, we'll jump to another video now, which is by a Hungarian national who's been living here in Shanghai for about 18 years. He has shared a bit of his experience here in Shanghai under this lockdown. So let's check that out now. Nope. Come on, go.
Yeah.
Sorry, you guys, my connection's terrible, eh?
Yeah, okay, there we go.
And there are strict lockdown procedures in place. That's something this city has never seen before. Unlike the rest of the world, China has been largely free of any COVID outbreaks, except the original one that was brought under control in Wuhan in 2020. Life across China has been almost normal, as everyone here is very self-conscious about cooperating with epidemic prevention measures, such as wearing masks, doing occasional PCR testing, and so on. Actually, until a few weeks ago, I haven't met anyone who knew someone with COVID. Yet most of my family and friends abroad have either already had COVID or were in close contact with people who did. So far, the biggest inconvenience for us foreigners here had been the difficulty of traveling back to our home countries or to have our relatives visit us. I myself have not been back to Hungary since 2019, and my parents have been unable to see their grandchildren growing up in the last 3 years. The speed with which the latest Omicron variant spread through Shanghai has taken everyone by surprise. Earlier, we had been worried when we saw 1 or 2 infections in a month, and now we see them in the 20,000s in one day. Streets have been empty, companies ground to a halt, and supply chains have been thrown into disarray. We as a software development team have moved all of our operations online a long time ago, with developers and designers working together remotely from their homes, and sales representatives visiting our clients through teleconferencing apps. I myself have been popping in and out of online meetings with our Hungary office and our Chinese teams, internal training sessions, and product discussions through video conference. At the same time, I and my wife are also doing volunteer work in our residential compound, where we live together with almost 5,000 people logged in for almost a month now. We're trying our best to minimize the inevitable rate of transmission, doing PCR testing for everyone almost every day, which is itself an uphill battle. Most of the maintenance workers and staff of the compound have already been quarantined, so currently it's up to the residents and volunteers to do most of the basic maintenance, cleaning and disinfection. At the same time, we're trying to ensure that people still have food and other supplies for basic survival, which is very difficult to believe in this age in one of the world's most developed and most efficient places, where people are normally used to same-day deliveries. Our compound also recently organized a very successful community event, a so-called balcony concert, where all of us who are locked inside our apartment in these high-rise buildings gather on our balcony, listen and dance to the same music, and try to have a fun time under the circumstances. This was definitely something none of us has ever experienced before, and is also a great example of the surviving spirit of the people in Shanghai. We all hope that things will get back to normal soon. Until then, keep up the Shanghai spirit. Shanghai 加油!
Really good to see. It's good to see foreign residents here in Shanghai getting together with everybody in their district, in their 小区, volunteering. Also, that concert was awesome, the balcony concert. It was I've seen videos of that online. Really awesome to see people get together and express their frustrations, I guess, their happiness, frustrations, tears, joy, together in a concert. So yeah, awesome stuff.
Yeah, we mentioned this before, but in my xiaoqu, in my neighborhood, we had a concert as well. And I heard a lot of, it was pretty positive. All the energy was positive. I heard some kids singing. I heard some folks playing instruments. So that was cool. So, I agree with his name was Steven. I think we might have missed his name there at the beginning, but I agree with him about not being able to go home. I haven't been back to the U.S. for nearly 3 years now, and I haven't seen my family members from there in that long. And that's a bit of a hard thing. I think for me, that is probably the most difficult part of not just this lockdown, but this entire pandemic since it started. And so I think we all sort of share. We hope that we can get through this defeated and then move forward. And, I've had a lot of friends leave the country as well. Some people who are students, some people who are business people who would go back and forth between Shanghai and their home country, part-time Shanghai residents who now really aren't here either for visa reasons or for logistical reasons or whatever. And so, so we're fighting through it. Hopefully we can get back to normal and get those situations back to where they were.
Yeah, it's important. I said last time when you mentioned not being able to go home for a little while, it's important to keep in mind the expats here in Shanghai who cannot go home. And also, you might remember back in 2020 when COVID first hit, it was during Chunjie, during the Spring Festival, which is like a huge festival for Chinese people. It's like the largest probably, and a lot of people, kind of liken it to Christmas in the West. And the year after that, 2021, everyone was talking about it's going to be so great we can finally, go home for Chunjie, for Spring Festival, to see our families. But the foreigners in Shanghai and in China in general didn't have that kind of luxury to go home for Christmas or see their family. So, for us, it has been, like Alex said, some of us 2, 3, or at least 2 years, some more, 3 years, as you said, Alex, that we haven't been able to head home, see our family. So it is tough. But I think definitely things should be looking up sometime this year, hopefully, if not ASAP. But yeah, I'm crossing my fingers for that.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, Chunjie or Spring Festival is usually in February. Sometimes it can be early January, but usually it's in February. It was February 1st this year. But and it's a time for me in the past, and when I was single, it was a time for me to go back to the U.S. and visit my family. Sometimes it was difficult for me to in years ago, it was a little more difficult for me to go home around Christmas time. So I would just come use the Spring Festival. Obviously now I have a Chinese family, and so I visit them for the Spring Festival. But yeah, it's tough not having been home for so long. I would really like to go home and see my family. A bunch of them got COVID. They all got over it. Obviously the situation in my country was a lot different than it has been here in terms of the way that COVID was dealt with. So, for better or worse. But anyway, so yeah, I'd like to get home at some point just for a visit, so let's hope that happens. And not just me. I know there are lots of other people from the international community living here in Shanghai. I'm sure we got a lot of people watching that feel the same way. So let's hope that we can get that done sooner.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's important. A lot of the people who have been wanting to go home have been able to recently, before this lockdown, obviously, as more and more countries opened up. I know New Zealand finally opened to travelers and returning New Zealanders after about 2 years being locked off. But the problem is, once we come back to China, we still need to undergo 2 or 3 weeks quarantine. So for many people, it's just not worth it. Even though it's physically possible, it just hasn't been possible at all.
Yes, right.
And I need to go to Australia, like most of my family's in Australia, but of course I'm a New Zealander, so I can't, actually till recently head there, not being an Australian national. Speaking of Australia, we received a $50 Australian super sticker from Precious Jules. Wow. Thank you so much. That is awesome. We will put that towards some Tuangol group supplies. Just kidding, we won't. Thank you so much for that. There's plenty of other comments. I can't get through them at the moment. I'll have a quick look while we first play our last video for today, which is, speaking of looking forward, Alex, to normality. We have a video from Jinshan, which is one of Shanghai's two of 16 districts that have kind of returned to some form of normalcy. So let's check that out, and then we'll come back and say goodbye.
Okay.
你是5.5之前回来的吗？马车有回上市，对。但是那马年是分个数个肯定马年了，对不对？对吧？第一趟出来吗？第一趟，还没出来过。刚刚看。年报到现在了。年老到现在。年老到现在。 扫查扫码。
从早上开门到现在呢，大概有48个顾客了。他们买的炒货类啊，那个肉类的就比较多一点，还有糕点类的。 南瓜子啊，那个鸭胗、鸭脖啊，牛肉啊，这种卖的都很好的。有些小区是2天放一星一次，一次是2、3个小时这样子的，所以出来的人也不是一窝蜂的那种。
每个小区这个时间点还不一样是吧？
不一样的。
Now, I recognize the voices in the video. We heard the Gao Lao Shi and the Zhou Shengjie, our colleagues. Yes. So yeah, they have filed that video. Obviously, they're out and about with their media passes. I'm jealous, filing these kind of stories. Yeah, the video there that we saw, I think it was a pass that people have for being able to go outside and get supplies or something. So life is still far from normal, but as Stephen Riley commented at the start of the show, it's just a little taste of those very mundane things that people are really looking forward to, Alex.
Yes, my cat also seems to approve. Yes, it's good. So yeah, it's good to see that people are able to actually go out and about, or actually to go going places. Obviously, for those of you who haven't lived here before, that supermarket was the first one. That's a classic supermarket in China. Most of them look like that. Definitely getting back to normal. And then the little snack shop, the Life and snack shop is also a really common thing out here. And so, it's good to see those things sort of get back into people's daily routine. It looked like on the card that the man was able to go outside. I don't know if it's once per day. Again, different districts and different communities are doing things differently, and that's just the way it's sort of been throughout this entire sort of episode. But yeah, so that appears to be the case where he's at. But it's good to see at least the people in some parts of the city are actually sort of starting to approach normality.
Right. A bit of normalcy there. Do we have that guy watching today? I don't know. Someone posted a comment saying, interested in the Wumao badge.
You got it.
We've got a lot of these Wumao badges here. Haven't been able to send them out. If you know what it means, you know what it means. There we go. Yeah. A lot of people want these. We're going to send some probably on my Reports on China channel. I'm not sure if we'll be posting them through Shanghai Daily, but yeah, keep an eye out. You guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. I think my internet problems are a bit too much for me to handle right now, so I'm going to we'll say goodbye, and I'll try and figure something out. And we'll see you again tomorrow, Alex.
Yes, we'll be back tomorrow with any news updates, anything that happens in the next 23 hours. And so tune in. You can catch us on China.cn. You can catch us on the Shanghai Ribao, Shanghai Daily WeChat platform, YouTube, Facebook, and other media platforms that are essentially the same thing, just branded different names. So there you go.
Right, of course. Okay, you guys, enjoy the view. I'll put some more comments up, but until tomorrow, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
All right.